I
Man.
still see it offline to see. Let
Yeah,
me
it's
let me check.
because there is a delay between
Okay.
us starting to stream
So we are
versus
gamed.
them hearing what we do, you know? So, how's everyone doing? I hope everyone is having a lot of fun. We're live today and we're gonna do some cool shit as always. I wanted to have Grant Warwick to join us today. However, there's always this thing that uh, sometimes gets in the way, which is sleep, and he might not be up yet. I I'm very considerate, knowing that it's 8 a.m. in Australia. So, and I know he messaged me like literally a few hours ago saying, "Hey, dude, if I wake up, I'll be I'll be there." So,
Otherwise,
otherwise, no. But don't worry. I mean, Grant is good friends of ours, um, so he will definitely be on one of the next ones. If not today, like maybe he will join somewhere in the middle. That'll be perfect. If not, I'll just continue to do what I like to do and just make this as entertaining as possible. Of course, of course. So we've done some projects before on before on Twitch, and in most cases we're always trying to get like guests and whatnot. But when that's not happening, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out like a formula. We're always trying to find the right identity for the streams we're doing. Um, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So it's gonna be, one of those episodes where you guys gonna help me to find that identity. I'm pretty happy to see a lot of familiar faces too, and we also have um, five more people who resubscribed to this channel and continue supporting it. So that's pretty darn awesome. Um, Thank you for that. And someone asked if those videos are going to be on YouTube. Yes.
yes, they
Yes,
will.
they will. They always will. So if you want to support us, just subscribe. If you don't care about subscribing, just wait. It will be on YouTube later. But if like fuck, like I watched this was the best thing ever. Like I really want to watch it again, like now, then yeah, then subscribe. Or if you just like what we do and you like the idea that we are doing this, then yeah, then do that. Do that. I have two options to work with here. That's the project I'm sort of like streaming impromptu every now and then, and I kind of want to like design cloth and shit like that. Learn a little more about Marvel's designer and uh, and some of the elements of shaders and whatnot. So I hope to have Grant, because Grant is like the master of um, he's the master of shaders, if you will, and for me it was like, oh, let's talk about maybe creating like more realistic cloth or something. So, but that's probably not gonna happen today. So therefore, I'll just try to do it best to my knowledge. So we'll see about that. And obviously, Momo is here, so Momo will help me with any questions you guys have. So yeah, keep
Yeah,
asking them, and I'm reading the chat too. I'm just glancing at it, but yeah, I'm probably gonna focus more on what I'm doing here.
I'll take care of the chat. And also for you guys to know, we've renamed all the videos on the in the archive, so it'll be super easy for you guys to go back
Right.
and look for that particular stream. So, yay.
Yay, dude! I'll tell you something funny. We can now play um, Cloud Kicker on this stream if we want to. we
Nice.
we can play some music and we got a green light to do it.
That's
I,
awesome.
it's up to you guys. If you like metal, then I'll play it. I'll maybe play it next time when with when I'm with Ash. But if you like, I can play it in the background. Well, I don't know if you're gonna be able to hear it though, Momo, through the
You,
Skype. I don't think
you go.
Skype's gonna be recording it, so
It's okay.
um, I don't have the soundboard with me today either. Fuck. I always, it's metal, metal soundboard. That's hilarious. That would be actually cool to set up something that, but it has to make sense, like maybe like a metal version of WoW or something.
It'd be
That
awesome.
would be awesome. But it would be it would have to be a proper quality, like making something that is legit. So um, yeah, I'm trying to render this shit here. Basically, looking at um, the shaders. I've set up some shaders here. I'll maybe show my shader tree in a second. As soon as it stops compiling and does the preliminary render. Um, but yeah, so a few things I wanted to talk about. Maybe, as I'm working, and maybe I'll just focus on some ideas and thoughts that I had in my head recently, um, that might be interesting for you guys or may not. Who knows? I definitely somebody asked what happened with Showtime or if it's still going. It is still going, and it's going on its own pace. I'm sort of like trying to enjoy it as much as I can, and that's the whole idea. I don't want to force myself to do something that I don't want to do. So, yeah, David Lesperance can definitely help me with metal and girls. I agree with that. Um, fuck, I lost my train of thought right now. What I was talking about, dude?
You don't want to do anything
Oh
you.
yeah, 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 yeah. Sorry, sorry. So yeah, so Showtime. Um, I have like a couple of ideas. So right now, what I'm going to do is just focus on doing illustrations for it, like the last one I did. I have like plenty of ideas to do some cool shots and loosely related to story and whatnot. The problem with me is like I am I'm trying to be perfectionist in a lot of cases, and what happens is if something is not right, then I just don't want to do it because I feel like it's just a waste of time. And for me, for me, going into storytelling is one of those things. So I would need to find someone. I've been talking to a couple of people already who are good storytellers, but then the other lieu of issues come in. So it's like, damn, my throat, my throat is the polyps on my throat are telling me you're talking too much. um,
Where's your art cafe mug?
yeah. Oh shit. Okay. Why why someone mentioned this amazing, beautiful mug that is right now on sale? That's so fucking shameless.
Shameless. This is
Um,
horrible.
anyways, all right. So yeah, I'm gonna do Showtime. I'm probably gonna do this on the stream as well. Maybe one of the next ones. Again, like for me and Ash, we obviously want to have as many guests for you guys to listen to. As you guys know, when we are doing whenever we're doing live streams, and by the way, me and Ash, we want to do like tag team live streams, very similar to what I started doing in my own spare time. So some of those impromptu stuff that I just like experiment with shit, and you can basically see the workflow and sort of me trying to get things done. And so it's not like magically happening. You actually see that I fucking try things and fail and like, oh, it doesn't work. What shit? Um, like I'm doing right now. I'm doing this. Oh, it's render. It's done. All right, cool. Uh, and basically speaking is uh, me and Ash gonna do that too. So we gonna be doing this on Learn Score channel together. So we might be on a Skype call, talking together, playing some music, just having fun and having it very informal. And you guys obviously will, be notified when that happens. So I don't believe those streams are gonna be scheduled. They're gonna be out of regular schedule of the streams that we do here normally. So yeah, but we'll definitely post whenever we're getting like going live. We'll definitely post about it, and whoever is live that day will be able to join. And if not, then they all are always saved as video on demand in the channel as long as you subscribe, and they're gonna be posted later on YouTube. If you don't want to subscribe, you're just gonna have to wait. So, but that's it. um, yeah.
Are
So
you going to have them like usual, like generally later at night?
I don't know. Like those streams that
Okay,
I
it'll
want to
be
do
just.
with Ash, like much
Mm.
like what I'm doing right now already. Damn it, my throat is killing me. Where's water? Sound like an old man. I'm like 50 or something.
You already have a bunch of questions coming in.
Wow, someone subscribed. Holy shit,
Wow.
Spaceman. Thank you. Um, yeah, I mean, we'll let the questions in a second.
Okay.
But what I was saying is, yeah, I don't know yet. Like we'll figure it out with. Damn, thank you, Feedy, Feedy, and thank you, Captain Kinpachi, for a subscription 4 months in a row. Thank you. That's a lot. That's a lot. I appreciate that, and we probably appreciate the comeback of Eddie's face. So, um, anyways, Beefeedy. All right, that's good. That's good. Yeah. So we're gonna do those streams impromptu, because like we have to be considerate about our time in terms of like work and shit like that. And sometimes we just like, oh, I'm gonna go stream, and then Ash says, yeah, let's do this, and then we just go live. It's very informal, and it's just like one of those things where we just want to share screen, have fun, and don't feel obligated about anything. So we're definitely gonna try to do that. Um, anyway, so the reason I started personally doing those streams, and also what you see here, me doing here on the screen right now too, is like I want to learn a lot of shit. And one of the reasons why we started Learn Squared is just to share ideas in between me and Ash. That's where it started. Like Ash was asking me questions, I was asking him questions, and eventually he mentioned like, hey, let's fucking teach one another, and I said, yeah, let's fucking do it. And that's how Learn Squared happened. That's why we have Apprentice and all that stuff. But um, yeah, so and it's just my drive to learn new things, and constantly trying to get to learn new things and implement them in my work. And whatever I show online, whatever I teach you guys with my courses, whether it's the futuristic character design or intro to environment painting, and the new one that I'm still working on. I know people are asking me where the fuck is the new course. It'll be there. I don't want to release anything that's shitty. I've covered so many grounds with Gumroad and those two courses that I don't want to rob you from releasing some rehash shit that you'll be then upset about. So, but it's still in works. So any of those things are happening in the background, and it's like whatever I teach you, I always also want to learn and attach everything that I do, or everything I learn attached to my work. Um, and whenever I talk about, for instance, learning 3D, is the reason for you to learn 3D is pretty obvious. The whole market is moving that direction, right? And it's so much easier to work with 3D, especially when you work with directors and production designers in film, or even art directors in video games. Um, but it can be downing. It can be like one of those things where you want to start learning 3D and you quickly realize like, fuck. Like, it's so difficult. There's so many options to choose from. And my basic approach is focus on one thing and try to find the balance in between what you already know versus what you need to learn, and sort of start shifting that balance slowly but surely. So if you're learning 3D, start with something as easy as creating boxes and using them as your perspective reference. That's how I started learning 3D. And then you can move forward, like add lights, make more intense designs with 3D, then learn how to model, then learn how to do maybe CAD modeling with Fusion 360 for hard surface, and then look into ZBrush for more organic forms, and just the list goes on and on. The idea here is that you learn all the available tools that you have in order to find which one of those are going to help you with your specific goal, right? So if you want to be character designer, if you want to be a costume designer, then maybe jumping into Marvelous Designer is a great idea, right? Like I have Marvelous Designer right here open. I might do that as well at some point. And for me, it's exactly this. So as you guys might have seen, I've been posting those images, those 3D renders recently. And, they are not the greatest thing in the world, but it's still sort of an ongoing process. It's still like I'm learning how those things work. And as I'm learning them, I'm applying them to my professional work in bite pieces. So for instance, right now I'm sort of like trying to optimize the way the skin looks, right? So let me actually do a render. This is a render from the front. It's more of like a render to get to see how the cloth looks like. And actually I was talking about opening a shader tree. So as you can see, this is a shader tree for the skin shader with different maps. For that character, it's for the DAS 3D character, and I'm trying to get as realistic results as possible without going into ZBrush, without going into like texturing XYZ and like all of those tools that professional artists are using for like character art in games and film, right? That's where I want to go. Like I eventually want to learn how to use ZBrush to get more realistic proportions and whatnot. But I'm trying to figure out what's the upper limit. What's the upper limit of those tools? Like just using DAS and just using V-Ray, for instance, right? And I'm constantly like tweaking those things and trying to figure out the best workflow. So if I create a new character, I can reapply the same shader. Right now it's just a skin shader. Later on, I want to add eye shader that looks good, and all that. It's just step by step, but you will never be able to get there if you just kind of try it and then let it go and like, fuck, I don't want to do this anymore, But the cool thing about this is like, for instance, now if I create next Showtime illustration, and maybe that's what I'm gonna start doing on this stream as well, like just show you how I like just work on it as I'm talking. But all of those things now I can apply to everything that I've been doing so far. So for instance, it's pretty obvious when you look at the Showtime illustrations that I do that I'm using 3D. I'm using DAS 3D to post characters and basically have that as my reference for everything, not all of those images, but most of those images have DAS 3D character base. And then I obviously look at references to make sure that, I have some kind of better proportions because DAS 3D don't have the best proportions. Then looking at things like the lighting that I can set up in V-Ray and whatnot, and then even shaders. So for instance, this would probably for the style of work that I'm doing for for Showtime. This is probably an overkill because I'm trying to do like this halftone shader deal. And any of those intricate detail of the skin that you can see here, those pores that you see here in the render, and subsurface scattering that is happening right here. I don't know how realistic it is. Like I have to start looking at references at this point. Like try to find the proper photos with like good photos that are models that don't have like fucking powder and oil on them. You know what I mean? Like it's difficult to find the right photos, or maybe just make a photos of a friend in the close-ups with one directional lighting to get to see how skin looks in the close-up, so that you can go in and tweak that shader and make sure it works really well. But knowing all this, for instance, let's say if I get a call to do a job where I'm gonna have a character with a close up, I can set it up in DAZ and do quick renders, send it over to director. He can say, all right, this looks pretty good. So then I'll do a render with the skin shader. So now I can choose and pick and choose the camera angle. I can pick and choose different lighting. I don't have to spend time searching for references or textures or photos that would get me the right results, especially if I'm asked to do something extremely realistic. And it just becomes this infinite, it just makes so many possibilities at this point. Because like now I can change lighting on the fly if I'm not happy with the lighting, or if director comes back like, hey, can you change the camera angle a little bit? Like if you would do it with Photoshop and 2D, that would be like fuck off kind of answer. But now for me, it's like, yeah, sure, give me X amount of time, and I'll re-render and make sure everything looks good. So it just makes you more flexible with your work. So that's the basic idea behind learning things, and I think one of the major parts of it is just making sure that you're trying to look at it from a modular perspective. So don't try to get everything solved in this new tool that you're using. Try to solve to a point where you feel like you're hitting the wall, and then rely on everything else that you already know. So for instance, right now, if I would be working on a client work with this, and let's say I have to make a render, so I would you can send screenshots like these and say like which of the angles you like the most. Like that's just like maybe not the best example, but it shows you the idea, right? I don't have to render those. I can just screenshot those, and obviously it depends on what kind of client you work on or you work with. If the person that you work with is some kind of dude that only wants to see final results and cannot understand how mockups or camera angles work in the first place, maybe that's not the right idea. But most cases, art directors and production designers, they will understand when they see this, like, yeah, this angle is pretty good, let's go with that one. So yeah, so now you have it ready. It takes you freaking 2 minutes to set something up, right? So I want to set up something like this instead, and then you set up a camera, send a screenshot, done. It takes you literally a second, and you can always tell like, oh, it took me an hour to do this. I'm joking, but it gives you much more possibilities. And if you're working in the studio, the art director can come in and say like, hey, let's try to do and he'll just like take over and say, I want this, and you don't have that possibility when you're working in 2D only, so that's one of the things that 3D is really taking over in terms of like, you can create so much good shit very easily. So you send those screenshots, you get feedback, all right, I want this shot, then you can send a render with just different lighting without the shader setup and see if they like it, and then you can tweak the lighting to a point where everyone is happy. And then when everything is done, then you make a final render. And by the way, like, I'm gonna make this render as I'm talking, and you will see it. This kind of render already gets you 99% there. All you have to do now is like touch it up, do some a little bit of paint over. Maybe some of the glitches that you see there, they're not worth fixing in 3D. They're maybe worth fixing in post, and do that. So yeah, so it's a very modular way of working, and that's what I've been doing recently in most cases. I know when I go on the social media and see what you guys are posting about the work that I post, I can clearly see that any kind of sketches and 2D work is probably the stuff that I'm mostly known for, and I it's because it's probably much better than any of my 3D skills. My 3D skills are pretty horrible still, but it's getting there. I think the greatest example of progression of just taking the tools and trying to use them as much as possible and learn about them as much as possible and really take advantage of them is Ash. Ash, before we started learn Squared, couldn't do shit in 3D. He knew Cinema 4D a little bit, and now see what he's doing. He made a fucking epoch film himself and with Chris. Those two guys made the whole film, which looks like something that you could easily use like as a commercial for, I don't know, for whatever, right? So you can do that. It's just a matter of putting time and effort, So yeah. Hmm. Are there any questions, dude?
Yeah, there's actually a ton.
All right, let's do those. I don't want to talk too much before.
I mean, yeah, the first one is just about client work. Like whenever you get asked to do sort of what you were mentioning, if they want different angles or different textures and so on, how do you deal with it? How do you basically deal with it when they're asking all these changes but don't want to pay the extra work time?
It's if you don't set it up in upfront with your contract,
Contract?
then you're fucked.
Okay.
Then you're fucked. It's as easy as that. It's like make sure you set it up in the contract. So when I don't work for a specific amount of money anymore. Like for me, unless it's a bigger project unless it's a very specific thing that has to be done, and it makes sense financially, then what I would do is I would want to sign a contract that pays me X for doing specific work, allows for one or two revisions from the client, and then any extra revision that the client wants to make is gonna cost them my day of work, basically, no matter what that is. If it's a small tweak, I still gonna charge them a day of work. And if they say yes, then yes. If they say no, then I just move on. I'm not gonna beg for them to sign the contract that they don't like, because if they're gonna try to sign something they don't like, they'll try to abuse it too. So you have to be really careful of what you're signing with the client. If you don't sign any clause that prohibits them from asking as many changes as they want, you're gonna be fucked. Unless you have a client that is understanding and they know what the limits are and they are trying to get things done without hassling you and trying to squeeze the most out of you, which I would say happens more often than not. You just it's a bad deal not to have anything in the place that prevents them from doing that. So you have to sign a contract like this. There's two options. One is make the contract that says you're getting paid for a daily work, and that's it. If they ask changes, well, I'm gonna keep working on them, but I'm gonna keep charging you for every day or every hour that I work on. And that's probably the best deal, because they can request as many changes as they want, and you don't care because you're gonna charge them for the time you spent on it. So when they see the bill coming in and they only see one image done, accounting will eventually ask art director producer will eventually ask art director why I only see one image and a bill for fucking 5 weeks. And it's because I'm asking for millions of changes. That's usually how it goes. But if you only can sign a contract that allows, or that's for specific pay for specific work, put in a clause that says only one or two changes allowed, and then any extra changes will cost X or Y. Otherwise you're screwed, dude. Don't do that. That's the worst thing. I seen. I have a friend. I'm not gonna mention who, and I'm not gonna mention who he worked with. He's a really well-known artist. He's like really fucking good, and he overlooked that detail in his contract, and it ended up for him working on an image that normally would take him a day, and so he would charge a day of work for it, 2 weeks to finish an image, and he couldn't say a peep because it was a large client too, so it would be like a bad thing to do. He just signed a bad deal and got abused, and but that's what it is, so I always advocate, you're excited about working for a client, still make sure you're signing the right contract, like it would be a good idea to hire a lawyer, and if you can afford it, hire a lawyer and go through the contract. Just look through the contract and look through the language so that you understand what it says. If you do it once or twice, you should be able to find out on any future contracts if there's some clauses that are questionable to you. So that's usually a good practice to do, especially if you are already a professional and you want to do this and you're doing this for the living. You're not like still scraping to get any work. And to my experience, also to only add to this question and a little more answer to it is, the bigger the client, usually the less issues you're gonna have. So the smaller the client, the worse you're gonna end up being. Because what happens is the fucking small clients, and like if I would hire people, I would almost urge them to sign the right deal, personally, because I know that I would personally ask for more than an average client would ask for. It's because I don't have millions of dollars as big corporations do, where they throw money, and obviously they only they're it's not like they're throwing money, but it's more forgiving for them to work in a specific manner. Like for instance, a big film studio, they have more money to spend on different avenues, therefore they can assume and hire people on a daily basis or on an hourly basis. It's not like an author of a book that he's trying to release and he only has $4,000 in his account. Of course, he will want to pay you the least amount of money to get the best possible result, right? Because he only has a very, very small budget and he wants to get the best shit ever. Like it's his baby that he wants to make as good as possible. But there's always a limit. So yeah, it's I found that small clients are the most demanding. They'll always ask for the most changes. Also, in most cases, small clients usually don't have experienced designers or directors, which mean that they'll be more micromanaging you than, like, let's say, big clients. So yeah, make sure it's in the contract. Otherwise, yeah, you're on the losing end. So
Yeah, and also if it's not in the contract and you get to the point where they ask you to change things and you sort of resist, like that's usually a recipe to burn bridges,
yeah,
because
exactly.
it just creates tensions and you won't be happy, they won't be happy, and that's the last thing you want when you're dealing with a client.
Yeah, and you don't know. You know who
Who
that
they
client
know
is,
and
who he knows.
yeah.
Like it might be an absolute ass. And by the way, in film and in games, there are people working in the big companies that are such a fucking assholes and assheads with big egos. And if something goes wrong, because of their position, you're gonna be on the fucking shitty end. And word spreads out. It's not as bad in games because games are so scattered. It's way bigger of a market. But in film, if you burn one bridge in film, you're fucked, dude. Like you don't want to do that. You don't want to leave one or two designers with a bad taste in their mouth about you. So because that word spreads out so fast that you will not be able to work in the industry anymore. So especially in film, film is really small. Everyone knows one another. So yeah.
Cool.
Let's
Next
do more.
question.
More.
Next question. Maciej, when you're learning new skills, like when you picked up Modo or Fusion, like how do you decide on what you're learning next? Is it based on the project you're working on, the personal project you're working on, or is it because you have like a master plan? How do you go about deciding what's the next tool or the next big thing?
I go by what interests me most at the time. I'm trying to find out what I'm excited about and then go with it, because like that way I keep myself motivated. If you're working
Mm.
on something that you really don't want to work on, then yeah, like you're just gonna get bored really fast, and you're not gonna be able to focus on it as much as you would wish to focus on it, and you'll be like, "Fuck, I wish I was doing this instead." Like you don't want to be in that place at all, Like you want to be more in a space where, damn, like I'm so excited to do this shit that I cannot wait for, to get back to my computer and do something next, Um, and I would say that's the way you should approach it. If you're trying to force yourself to do something you don't like, you're gonna hate it, and it's gonna be a bad time for you. So I would say do it this way instead. Just be excited about it, and when you're excited about it, try to think big, but then break it down into small chunks, like small goals. So for instance, for me is right now with this little project, I don't know how far I'm gonna go with it, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna go to a point, and if I stop, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get back to it again, because like this sort of sportswear, that's something I started like way back when, but I never cared to finish it, and now I'm excited about it and I want to finish it. So that's why I'm working on it again, and I'll keep coming back and keep learning new things. But the things that I learned here, now I can apply elsewhere. So it's always like this expansions of tools, and trying to find a mastery in it. I want to be proficient in creating. The way I'm thinking about art these days is I want to be able to create what's in my head. Not only just go in Photoshop and then find limitations of what I can paint because I don't have enough skill in painting or I don't have enough skill in this or that, but I know like there's tools that will allow me to go through those obstacles and find a way to make things better. So, for instance, like there are clients that I work with that require me to do very specific things. That are not just your regular, oh, let's paint the character in an environment. That happens too. But I'm gonna have then a task that there's, for me, it would be impossible to paint, but it would be like a click of a button if I knew it how to do it in 3D. So I look at it through this angle, through this lens as well. Like if there's something that I can do in 3D, but I cannot do it yet, but I see people doing it, and use it for my regular job, that's something I'll try to do as well and learn as well. So
Okay, so even if you're not interested in a particular skill, but you sort of see that it's going to become a standard in the future, you're going to learn it.
yeah, if I see that I can get to learn something that's going to be absolutely useful for me to have in the future, yes, that's exactly what I will do.
Okay, cool, cool. We can keep doing questions if you
Yeah,
want,
let's keep
or
let's keep going.
all right. Kendirski is asking if you've ever tried to learn something and completely failed.
Oh yeah, I do it
And
all the time.
okay, okay.
It's not like you're gonna start something and you're gonna be a master in it like right away. That's never
Hmm.
happens, by the way. That's in the fantasy world. You'd be like, yeah, I did it, but it never happens like this. You're always gonna start something. It's gonna be absolute garbage, and then you're gonna keep doing it, and eventually, maybe one day, it will click, and that's where you want to be. Like that's when it clicks, you're gonna be like, fucking finally. You want to be in that spot. So
Cool, cool, cool. Um, Joe is asking if do you think the world of UI, which is mainly in 2D right now, do you think that's
Mm-hmm.
going to turn to 3D in the future? Like, I'm guessing he's thinking about VR, like how prominent that
It's
is that
already
going to
happening.
be?
It's already
Okay,
there.
like
It's
that transition?
yeah, it's already there. Like the UI designs, they're already like, even if you look at Call of Duty, for instance, Call of Duty games, the UI
Yeah,
stuff is becoming more and more three dimensional and animated. Like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
already
yeah.
there. It's already been there for a couple of years. It's just like not everyone is can afford to hire a designer that is proficient with it. You know. And
Mm,
look at Ash. Like Ash, when you think about UI design, Ash is the first name that comes to your mind in most cases. Ash, Gmonk, and a few others, right? There's only few names in this field that really matter or you really hear about. Whereas when you think about environment concept art, you're gonna be able to mention fucking hundreds of names, you know?
yeah.
So if you can start doing something that you know is gonna happen and you're gonna be right there when the real transition happens, then you're gonna be good, dude. So I always like that's one of the reasons why you should always starve to be as good as on learning new things and trying new ideas and basically experimenting and expanding your field of view, because there might be that one point in your life where it's gonna be extremely useful, and you never know. It may not happen. You know, you might be the only guy who does that, and then fucking uh, but you never get noticed, you know, because you're like unlucky with the social media or some shit, you know. But the way I look at it is like the way you become successful is not that, you know, if you're not having any success, it's not because you don't have an opportunity. It's because you're not ready for when the opportunities happen, you know? And usually the people that are having the most success with things in their life is when they are trying to do something, trying to learn something that is maybe looks like it's not really worth it at this moment of time, um, but when the opportunity happens, they're ready. Like, oh shit, this is exactly what I was training for, and I'm ready, and now I'm gonna crush it. You know, so that's sort of like the basic idea behind it. You know, so I would definitely try to yeah go with learning. You know, 3D, anything 3D, anything VR is a good thing to learn. And when you learn 3D, the great thing about 3D is that the more proficient you are, the faster you're going to be in creating those assets in 3D. So, for instance, look at the cyborg alien human being, or however you want to call it, the mastermind behind the Skynet, Vitaly Bulgarov, right? So, Vitaly is so proficient in modeling hard surfaces that in matter of days, he can create the whole scene. In matter of one day, he will create, and I've seen it happen. He'll create a fucking design and make 40 renders out of it. And you're like asking yourself why you even exist at this point, you know? So but he's been doing and learning those things constantly. He's learning new things with CAD. I actually hope to have him soon again on either Twitch stream or at least Art Cafe or something. But Vitaly is constantly learning new things, and he's getting better and better and better at it. And now, like, you don't want to be on the same team when working on a project. If you're working on a film and Vitaly is on it, Vitaly is gonna make you look really bad, like for reals. You're gonna be getting questions from directors and producers why you are so slow. That's I know it from experience, guys. I know it from my own experience, so I
That's
know what
pretty
I'm
good.
talking about. Um, but the beautiful thing about him doing 3D is that when the VR really kicks in, or AR, when it becomes so affordable that mass market can now access it, and it's behind, like around the corner. He'll be ready for it because he already knows how to create in 3D. So for him, the only thing that's gonna stop him from owning it is how to render in VR, which is right now a matter of changing a setting. So yeah, yeah, he is definitely on the right track, and you can definitely be on the right track too. You just have to be smart about learning new things, and really trying to expand your view on what exactly you're gonna be doing. Because like the last thing you want to do, and by the way, it might actually work for you. It works for some artists where you're just sticking to your guns. You're doing only one thing, but you're doing it so good that everyone is like admiring you for that one specific thing. And the best example for it would be Kim Jung Gi. He's an amazing artist. Like he draws super fast. His anatomy, perspective, and drawing skills without references, without looking at references, are spot on. But that's the only thing he's doing, and he really doesn't need to do anything else. Because he's not. Um, I don't know him. I don't. Let's put it this way. I don't know him personally, but I can imagine that because of the mastery of the quality of the work he does, and how popular of an artist he is, he doesn't really have to look for work. He's gonna get very specific work requests, and I'm pretty sure he's making a living through his popularity, like creating books and selling prints or whatever that would be. I don't know. I'm just guessing, right? I don't know him personally to answer you that question, but I could only imagine that that's the case. And there's quite a lot of those artists on Instagram where you see them being extremely popular, doing their own thing, and because they're very good at that one specific thing, they grow their popularity with it and are able to sort of put their income on, let's call it autopilot, where they just sell prints or do commissions or do talks or do tutorials or whatever. Uh, you know, where popularity and the mastery of what they do brings people in, and gets people excited, about being
That's
around
true.
that person. So yeah, so that's how I see it. I mean, it can work, but unless you are that kind of person, you like unless you can rely on it, but you have to be freaking god mode. Like otherwise it's not gonna happen for you. So yeah. Anyways.
But you can still try it. Like I know, for instance, all these super popular guys such as Ryan Rendered, XPenXL, all these guys generally have um, a shop on their website to sell their everydays. And if
Yeah.
if you're one of these guys doing everydays, like usually, especially in Cinema 4D and things like that, and you have, even if it's 100 followers or something like that, it'd be a good idea to have that service, because even if it's a tiny bit of money at first,
Mm-hmm.
it'll be a good way, to give you some moral support and motivation to be more creative, but it'll also be a side source of income, which always helps.
Yep, I agree. You nailed it, dude.
Yeah, like I know a friend of mine, like what he does is every month he'll take one of his projects and turn it into a screen print and just sell a small run, a limited run of them. And he makes sure that every month he has one of those projects, which I think is a really cool idea. Because it just helps you keep that momentum and so on.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely a good thing to do. Question, but Shay, how do you deal with being frustrated about the work you're doing or learning something? How do you cope with the frustration?
I take a break. If you're frustrated, you're not gonna be able to focus. That's as simple of an answer as it can be. Uh, the major problem with, you know, not being able to focus on work or frustration or whatnot is like it just keeps your mind occupied with things that you don't want to deal with, and you should probably focus on something else instead. Um, and I try to generally I try to do that, you know, because otherwise, what's gonna happen is like you'll find yourself wasting time thinking about things that are not related to the work that you're supposed to do, and it's just a recipe for a disaster. You're just going to be, you're not going to be able to focus correctly. You're not going to be able to go into that deep work state where, you know, when you have those moments when you start working on something and you're so inspired and so focused on it that time pass by and you're getting like no distractions whatsoever, and then 5 hours in you sort of like wake up from this flow, and you look at the clock, it's like, holy fuck, I didn't eat anything and it's already evening, you know. I'm pretty sure a lot of artists like that have those moments at least once in your lifetime. You would have that moment when you're in that flow state where you're going in balls deep, and you just like wake up from this trance and like, holy shit, like where did the time go, you know. And that's called deep work. Actually, someone mentioned this book, Deep Work.
I'll share a link.
Yeah, Connell, Joe Connell,
Joe O'Connell, John O'Connell.
Joe Connell. Oh. If
John,
you know
let's
me good,
call
you know
him
I'm
John.
pretty terrible with names. I'm also trying to be a comedian, which
Sorry,
doesn't
John.
work because I am not a comedian and I have no experience in comedy. So it's kind of a disastrous thing to do, but I try to do it anyways. So, but yeah, there is a book called Deep Work, and I highly recommend reading it because it's fucking good. It's fucking good, dude.
Link is coming. Awkward silence. I'll give
Awkward
another
silence. I'm just
question.
focusing on shit. So, in the
Okay.
meantime, so it's all good. All good,
You.
dude.
Yeah.
All good.
Let's see. You once told a story about a dude that locked himself in his room and worked 3 months to get from unhireable to hireable. Who was that dude?
Crap. I don't remember. Did I talk about dude like that? It might have been Ash who was doing that.
Uh, I think you had an interview with, who was it? I'm
Do
thinking
you
Justin
remember it?
Fields, but I might
My
I might
memory
be
is
wrong.
failing me.
Yeah, it was a dude that went to, I believe, the art center and showed his portfolio, and they told him to come back, or it was for a job, and they told him to come back later, um, like in a
Fuck, dude. I
couple
don't
months.
remember.
Yeah, and he just came back a week after, and they were like, holy shit, with 100 sketches, and he got the job, and they were expecting him to come back a couple months down the line. Anyhow, we don't remember.
Yeah, we don't remember that.
Um, any tips for finding clients when you're new to the industry? I guess to start freelancing.
Finding new clients when you're joining the industry. I suggest what I suggest is I had this conversation about tips on how to get to the industry, and you know, and general tips on finding jobs and being appealing to clients and what you should focus on as an artist if you want to become a successful artist. I had that conversation with Aaron Lemonic. So if you go back to one of the Art Cafe episodes with Aaron Lemonic, you have that exact conversation there. So you might find some answers over there. My general mantra, and by the way, what I should mention in from the get-go is the moment I started working for Naughty Dog, and when my career progressed from there, that's the moment where I stopped looking for work. because I guess I reached the level of quality of work that I create that I don't have to look for work. I get job offers from clients instead, you know? And if you're good enough, you're going to eventually reach that moment where you're so good that people want to hire you. It's not like the other way around. And I would say it's only 2%, maybe 5% of artists that are in that position. And you kind of want to be there. You kind of want to strive to be exactly in that position, you know? Because it's just going to make your life easier. You'll be able to focus on getting the jobs that you enjoy doing instead of you're forced to do. So, but it takes a lot of time and effort to get there. So if anything, I had this talk in Art Institute San Bernardino back in, oh gosh, it was 2012 maybe 2013. It was 2013, I think, um, where I spoke about this very topic. Like, you know, it's a certain percentage of artists that are, you know, people always want to hire them, and there's everyone else. So I also suggest looking into that as well. You know, like you want to kind of be in a position where uh, they want to hire
There's
you, and you know,
demand.
and if it's not, if you're not there yet, and I can tell you when you are and you aren't there yet. In 95, 99, 99.9% of the time, your work is just not good enough. Um, if your work is good enough, if your work is like really fucking good and you're still not getting a calls, that means you're not showing it to anyone. It's
Yeah.
as simple as that. If you like post it on social media or, you know, ArtStation, Tumblr, and whatnot, and if it's really, really, really good as you think it is, it will blow up. Like people will start sharing the shit out of it. You know.
Hmm.
Um, I remember when there was this Swedish or Norwegian artist. Fuck, I can't remember his name. Let me find him. He was posting like those regular mundane images,
Uh,
but with like some
Simon.
sci-fi twist.
Yeah, it's Simon something. I love
Yeah,
his work.
Simon something. You're right. He's Simon something.
That's exactly his name.
Let me find out who that is. Simon. Uh,
Stalin hat.
Stalin Hack. Yeah, that guy. So I haven't seen any of his work ever until he started posting. He posted those like the bunch of artworks that he did with that like very sort of interesting twist and to like your regular like a regular photography, but it's all painted. Um, but like with a twist, you know, and it just fucking blew up because it's just brilliant. It's just so well painted. It's the idea, the how fresh it was at the time, and everything. You know, the artistry of it is just brilliant. You know, and because it's brilliant, because like everyone fucking were like, holy shit, this is so awesome, and therefore it just blew up. You know, so if your work is not like that, then it's not gonna blow up. It's not gonna blow up. It's just gonna be there, and people are like, yeah, another artwork, you know. So, yeah. Anyways,
What do you think? Because right now, when you go on ArtStation, it's really hard. Like there's only a few artists that, as soon as you watch, as soon as you sort of see the activity page with all the thumbnails, like a lot of the work looks similar, and you always have one or two things standing out. What do you think are skills or things that would help people to stand out? Let's say when you're doing hard surface or environment, what are, if you want, like trends to perhaps avoid, or if you have any ideas
don't
on the
look at
topic?
ArtStation.
There you go.
Don't look at ArtStation. It's as simple as that. If you want to have original work, it's not gonna be original because if you're looking at ArtStation, if you're finding your references in a place where someone already interpreting other references, you're automatically be influenced by it. Your brain, um, and the things you do are almost always influenced. And I'm gonna say almost always because I'm pretty sure there are cases where it's not a case, but they're almost always influenced by what you see or what you experience. So if you only look at ArtStation for inspiration for work, don't be surprised if your work is going to look like everything that is already on ArtStation, because that's where your inspiration is coming from. And the problem with looking at other people's artwork is that um, you will be in a trap of looking, or let's put it this way, you are looking at an interpretation of something that is sort of going through like the third party filter, you know? Because let's say Vitali is going to do amazing image, and his references are coming from not concept art, but some other places. His references are coming definitely from nature, definitely from industrial design, definitely from areas which you would normally wouldn't look at in terms of like searching for references. But then he's using his own design taste and his own design ideas to create shapes and forms and materials and rendering and whatnot, right? So then naturally, an artist that might be technically good and they can create, compelling renders, will go in and like, oh shit, I want to do something like Vitali, and it's fine to do that. I'm not saying it's a wrong thing to do, but it's gonna look as something that Vitali did, So, and I would suggest like you can do it, and it's not a sin to do it. It's fine to try to be inspired by an artist, or even do a master study or master copy of it. But just admit what it is. You're not creating anything original. You're creating something that is basically a copy of someone else's work. And as long as you're fine with it, as long as you understand the concept behind it, then you'll be fine. So, but if you want to be original and you want to be known for original work, then you kind of want to do something that is not just a copy of someone else's work. So,
or something people aren't doing, such as going to visit art galleries, going to museums, looking at, instead of, let's say, looking at other concept artists, environment painting, look at architects, look at the history of architecture, look at the history of graphic design. Like all these, we're at a point now where all these different industries are so connected just because of all the mediums we're sharing. So that's a way to find fresh inspiration, and to sort of distinguish yourself from what everyone else is doing. And that's really cool when let's say you come from motion graphic or graphic designs or fine arts. You always have that as part of your education, but it's something definitely to implement in your daily practice and workflow.
Yeah. Cool. Do we have any more questions?
Nope. At
All
this
right.
point, actually, yeah, I mean, let's take a break, perhaps. Do your thing, and we'll get back to some questions.
Yeah, let's take a, or not a literal break, but actually, you know what?
Yeah, just
Let's do this instead.
okay.
Let me just quickly finish this stuff right here, and I'm gonna do some quick review of. I'm gonna look into some of the homeworks that been posted in the homework
Perfect.
uploader.
Yep.
So we'll do that instead. Do. Let's see. I want to make sure I'm attaching the right things to the right places. All right, so this has to go here. Boom. And this has to go to be there. Is that correct? Hold on. Yeah. All right, cool. And this should work. Hell yeah. Or maybe it didn't. Or maybe it did. I don't know. I'll fix that if needed. Anyways, so let's see. Boo boo. Let's close those. Close those. Let me actually do this real quick, because I want to be sure that I don't have any client work in my Photoshop. So, I don't want to show anything that I cannot show and then regret it. Let's open up some of the homeworks. Actually, this is going to be a good one to work with. All right. So, yeah, I'll work with some of those images right here.
Edit.
So we have this homework uploader, which, by the way, we're constantly working to get better. So, and obviously, you know, Momo is here. So if you guys have any concerns about how the website works, or like, damn, I wish this was there and this was there, you know, then obviously send those ideas to us, because like we only assume that something works fine. We only try to do something that we perhaps think is best for you, but you might not like it at all. So it's for us, it's good to know and find the feedback. Any feedback that you guys send, we always try to implement, or at least be aware of, you know, and see if there's any way to improve it. So I'll do one homework review. So if you guys want to have some reviews, if you guys want to have a chance to, you know, be able to have like
get your work reviewed.
Yeah, get your work reviewed, then post the homework in the uploader, because that's where me and Ash, at least for now, me and Ash, and then perhaps other instructors, if they, you know, we plan to have some instructors joining our Twitch streams too, so they can stream and talk with you guys too, which I think would be brilliant. But it's a matter of their time and effort. You know, me and Ash are working with the school. We are the owners of the school, so for us, it's a no-brainer to set something up. For instructors, they have clients, they have other lives, and they're not, you know, obligated to do it. But I'm pretty sure we're gonna have few of them joining soon. So anyways, so I'm looking at this painting. Oh, by the way, so yeah, keep uploading there, and we will try to, like, we'll just randomly pick works to look at and whatnot, and have a critique, at least for a couple of minutes, critique of what this work does well and what it doesn't well. You know, we're gonna be pretty blunt, and obviously as I want to be as blunt as possible and say if something sucks, then it sucks, you know. And that's nothing to be taken personally. It's just my opinion on the work based on my experiences working for big clients and knowing what sells and what doesn't, and what looks good and what doesn't, from just my personal experiences. So take it or leave it. And yeah, and also gives you a taste what mentorships are like, you know. So when you sign up for mentorships when they're open, you get an idea what you can expect, just more elaborated and more explained. So just very quickly, one thing that I would do with this painting in the first place, like, there is so many different colors that are very vibrant, but they're not necessarily thought out, and I just don't understand why they're in there. For me, the biggest issue is with this blue color right here and the cyan. I just don't see where it's coming from. I can see that there's a light here. There's some kind of runes that are on this rock formation or this block right here. But the biggest issue with that is the way the light is scattering. It's not really following the right how the light would react and work. So in the first things first, I would just basically try to kill the blue light completely, almost, or desaturate it, maybe change it to more of a cyan and just make it darker. because it's just like just distracting, and obviously it started to affect the sky, which I don't want to. I still want to have that vibrance in the sky happening there. Also, the sky itself would probably cast a little more color into the rock, you know, and the rock itself would have the light directionality coming in from the skylight in that case. So let me pick like more bluish tone right here.
Is this something you tackle in the Intro to Environment Painting,
Yes, I talk
like
about
color
this.
theory and all that?
Yeah, I talk about there is a constructed way of approaching lighting and construction of your painting and how you should think about forms and shapes in that lesson, so that the things I'm doing here are basically what I'm teaching in the class. You know, like there's a reason why things look in the. There's a reason why you should deconstruct objects. You know, understand their form, the three-dimensional form of the objects, so that when you think about the lighting, you can assess where the lighting should be coming from and why it should look one way or another. You know, so when I'm thinking like the light direction, so let's say I want to add like a nuke right here, like a little nuke. So it would be looking like this because the direction of light for this specific area is coming from here. It's the light that is coming from basically the surrounding, right? So you want to have a directionality of light in your painting. So for here, like the sunlight or the sky, the sunlight is basically coming from here, and it's pretty obvious in this painting, right? But it's kind of like slightly disregarding the directionality of the a skylight, and it's just the skylight itself here. It's just way too blue, you know. There are other issues, obviously the framing. There's some the tangents going on, and I explain what tangents are in the lesson as well. A lot of tips and tricks that I'm using here are basically explained in the lesson too. So I'm just sort of like it's a glance in a glance, sort of like bird's eye view of the lesson. But yeah, like I would recrop the image, make it look completely different. Probably like just change the composition. And I do explain composition rules in the lesson too. You know, there's a reason why you should not have the edges of this formation touching the edge of the canvas and whatnot. So, but my major concern here is obviously, apart from the doing different composition, is going in and fixing the colors. And if we're looking at the reflections, I would imagine that you know, the rocks, when they are facing the light, they should always be, you know, the color of the light, unless there is a different material or material changes. So obviously the material itself will determine what the color is, and then the light itself that is coming from this rune would only affect the Fresnel, you know. So it would only be affecting like the top of the rocks. It's because where the reflection would be.
Can you explain what Fresnel is
It's basically
to those who don't?
the angle of reflection. So it's when you know, when you, let's say if you're looking at the water, when you're looking at the water towards the horizon, it's reflective. But when you look at the water straight down, it's transparent. That's basically what Fresnel does. It's the reflection based on the angle of looking, you know?
Okay.
And you have to think like, is this surface gonna reflect in what spot is the surface gonna reflect? And you have to deconstruct what the surface is. You have to think what kind of geometrical shape this surface has. And if it doesn't have, if the surface has, if you understand what the geometry behind those surfaces is, then it's going to be for you very easy to find out where it's going to start to reflect, you know? And that's the thing I actually teach in the class. So sign up, bitch. Joking. But yeah, like I would think about getting the colors right. I would think about the different kind of cropping. There's too much of sort of like, it looks like burnt painting. So shadows are black and highlights are white, which is not the right idea, I would say. And based on the angle of light, the lighting would be different. So slightly different. The grass would look different. I would try to explain the reason why there is shadow on the grass. You know, a lot of things to work here, but I think the most obvious one would be, you know, what I did here so far. So that would be, yeah, that would be it. All right, let's wrap it up here, guys. We had a pretty good stream. I really wish that Grant was here, but so my apologies for not having him here. I will scream at him on Facebook, and I'm basically gonna tell him that he's a bad person. No, I'm joking.
I,
Grant is a friend of ours. He, you know, we are always glad to have him on the streams when he can join, because I would assume he's one of the most knowledgeable persons that I know in terms of knowing shaders and, you know, and V-Ray in general, or Octane, or, you know, any rendering engines in that matter. He's really he's really a master at it. So it's always a pleasure to have him on, because like there's always something new to learn, and that's something like that I want to go with him through some of the shaders. We were supposed to talk about VR scans from V-Ray, and we'll do that next time he's on. So I'll definitely keep you guys posted about it. And yeah, let's keep it
okay.
at it, and
I'll just
wrap it up here.
Yeah, I'll just answer one last question for DC Extreme. How
Mm-hmm.
approachable are the Learn Squared courses for beginners, and how big are the improvements? Basically, all the courses are put together in a way like to if you're a beginner, like it'll basically take you from zero to hero in a way. Like you'll learn step by step in like really small bite sizes. What's the process to go from knowing nothing about, let's say, the interface of Cinema 4D to understanding the little task that you need to do to achieve like a really solid piece. And you have your instructor and the community on Slack to sort of give you moral support, help you out, and sort of hold your hand throughout the process. So it's really rare that people feel lost. And whether you're, you know, a middle, like intermediate or advanced, like each courses are built in a way that everyone can take something out of it. And if you look at our like the different social media platforms, be it Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, you'll see the result of what taking the courses, completing them, and doing like putting the work in them pretty much helps you achieve. A lot of people have had like really good success, got hired at really solid places. So definitely, if this is something you're interested in, I'd say give it a try. You know, there's 3 packages. You can start with the cheapest one, and if it's something you like, go for it, man.
Yeah. Good stuff, dude. Good stuff. Momo laid the ground here. He said what has to be said. So
Mic drop.
yeah, that mic drop. I'm gonna play some Cloud Kicker towards the end, guys. And thanks for joining us. And thanks for being here on the stream. I'll see you guys next week for sure on Thursday, and Ash on Wednesday, and maybe somewhere during the week. We'll definitely have some goodies, some you know, good stuff going on. So yeah. Anyways, guys, take care. Bye bye.
Ciao.
Cheers.